Hello.
Welcome.
Greetings.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mariana, or Vagabunda, as you may know me today as the Kick Butt DM. Welcome to Legends of Methis, and I hope you guys can hear me okay. Um, this is a homebrew campaign in a homebrew world. We are D&D Play 20, and we are a server and a channel with incredible folks, amazing people,
Yes, incredible.
and crazy players. So come join us. So I heard eh, I heard we do have a few subscriptions this week, which is going to unleash a bunch of chaos in this world.
Hell,
Yeah, karma cards.
No.
I already distributed the
there
reroll
was no
points,
subscriptions.
but we are going to have 4 karma cards in effect. We already have one that is a permanent effect in this city for the party, and we will take care of that in a minute. Before we fully go into it, I will give everyone again the chance to do the recap. But even before that, actually, introduce yourselves and your characters.
Oh,
Yes, Peter?
Who is he playing?
oh,
In the stream.
Sure.
roll initiative.
Mm.
Can everybody roll the initiative? Everybody just roll initiative.
Do we have our modifiers?
Oh, it's initiative.
Full time.
5.
And Peter? Cinder?
Me
All
first.
right.
Me first.
Nix goes first to introduce himself and his character.
Sounds weird. Nick. He will. Hello. I am Raza, often known as the Draconic DM or Professor Draconic or something Draconic. And I am playing Nick Streetfellow today in Legends of Methis. Rock gnome, halfling, artificer alchemist, who's looking to keep the band of people she is with together, stop them from breaking apart and chaos ensuing.
Just some dying. It's fine.
And she won't say that because you're not going to die. She will die first. And she's also looking for a cure to said plague that is
dying.
that is spreading throughout the land. UNT plague, ooh, snake people. And she's trying to solve the mystery of the plots that are happening across the land too. It's and I won't spoil anymore. I'll pass it on.
So you pass it on to Larkin.
Hi, I'm John. I'm playing Lorcan. Lorcan is a fighter. I can't remember what he is now. He's a
Rune
specifically
Dragonborn.
Dragonborn. I think no, he's a brass Dragonborn, and he has a very funny relationship.
I
with
know
Nexus,
who I am.
and is quite rash, actually, altogether. Otherwise, he doesn't really have his mind on much.
Apart from alcohol.
Well, no, that's Nexus.
You drink too.
All right. Yeah, Cinder. Apparently, Larkin, you're a bit quiet, so speak louder.
I'm a bit.
It says Peter is muted.
Been a while. Hi, I'm Peter. You can call me Gramps. I play Cinder, who is a Firbolg who is infected with a disease that Nyx cares more about curing in her boyfriend than in me. Even though I have to keep her alive, who cares, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm the healer. Does it matter? No. She wants to heal some funky looking dragonborn. That's all I got to say.
Did you say funky or hunky?
Funky.
Funky.
I heard different. But okay. Anyway, so
Funky.
I wouldn't say the
I
other word.
I, as the DM, play also another member of the party that I usually forget to introduce, Nixus, who is a brother in arms of Lorcan, who is grown up together with him, who's also a brass dragonborn of a slightly different category, and who's a barbarian, and who is, as just like Cinder, infected by this spreading disease, this plague that is spreading across the land, but is reacting to it slightly different. While Cinder is slowly decomposing, he is turning into a Yuan-Ti Broodguard. And so...
Yeah, one is transforming and one's just dying and turning into black liquid jelly.
Exactly.
So the transforming one gets all the help from Nyx. Even though I'm wasting away into nothingness.
All right, so I think that's plenty to go on. So let's get a recap going.
Oh,
I believe it's Nyx as usual. Who's going to
Nix's Corner presents Legends of Methis. So last time on Nix's notes, she cracked the code. She had like a journal from the drow. She cracked the code.
encrypted letters.
Encrypted letters.
Mhm.
Cracked the code. She
very
found.
happy.
She found. Oh yeah, she got to be smarty pants. Plans of war. Places to attack, recruit, and get as many batch races infected. She had sinister plots afoot. The notes said, or the letters said, that they had a way to control the ones turned, making them into an army of UNT Broodguards. Something mentioned about the Kingdom of the Sun. The main city, I believe, was Nilo, which means Night's Breeze. Home to Tiefling royalty. Is word that once a long time a Tiefling king went mad and tried to conquer Methis, but the ancient city was razed to the ground. And the Tieflings were then admonished, and any that were outside of the Ferial were sent to rehabilitation, which wasn't nice. A few escaped, a few rebelled, but most of them were sent off. The Genasi was revealed to be largely responsible for stopping the Tieflings. I do believe the city used to be close to where Nala is now. She also found out they're making more dark elves to the Serpent God, putting elves and tieflings to accept the dark pacts. However, there was some good news in there that they can't expand towards the wastelands. The magic there proves too strong, even for the Serpent God. What else did she have? Oh, she also picked up the prophecy, which they said was they were working hard to decipher. They had maybe made some advances in a few of the clauses. They were like looking to make sure it actually happens. They were looking when the 4 great nations fall. They might have attributed that to the death of the Janasi. When though, they're asking questions. They're looking to the part about dark spirits to free the seas, which might hint at the Isle of Knot itself unleashing whatever it built up magic there is there. But they were particularly stumped by the main part, which is when the crystal cracks. They believe that is the main part of the prophecy. That is the part they think that will grant them ultimate victory in this upcoming fight. As Nyx cracked the codes and told everyone this on their journey, they actually indeed arrived at Carolon, the city of mostly Dragonborn. Massive city divided in various districts and ruled by different council members. Nyx did some potions. When they got to the city, they met a very pleasant civil servant, Nistiak Wilsiyasa, I think also name, and someone that Nyx was introduced to as Gamper or Glampervan. She doesn't know what that means. She was very confused. Apparently apparently one of Lorcan's acquaintances. They were then redirected to go look out to find Ippodrak, the young little dragon they found on the road, to rescue him for the attack on the brood guards on the way here. They were deferred to Ingzel Jarvan, which is the butler at the Royal Armory. They went there, they consulted with Ingzel. They unfortunately, Lorcan, I believe, had to inform that his wife had perished. And there was more paperwork because the Crystal Dragonborn was a noble that she served under. So, poor yay, Nistiak is having a fun time being clerk. After that was all resolved, then they went briefly to cheer up or Ippodrak with some candy before bringing him back to his father. They went onwards a bit to the slums, on like would be considered the slum area of the city. And they met Nexus's mom, Akra, half dragon, but just full badass. She grabbed Nexus and beat him senseless. Nix was barely able to keep him alive. And then for some reason, Cinder picked a fight with her and then got kicked out of the house, literally. But then luckily was not permanently hurt. After Nexus was given a good walloping, I believe the rest of the party followed Lorcan because Lorcan had decided to go to his family first, where they met Lorcan's mother, Baroness Stronghammer, lovely lady, for a tea dragonborn. That's what Nix wrote, for tea dragonborn lady. And alongside Lorcan's father, Rudvik Stronghammer. Lovely people. And it turns out that Akra has taken a liking more to Lorcan than Nexus, just, poor Nexus.
I know, poor Nexus.
Mother issues,
Not really, but yeah.
And I do believe, as some things were found out from the parents, Nexus' father arrived, knocking on the door. And I think that's where we left her off, unless Nexus is incorrect.
Yes.
Sorry, it's a lengthy recap.
This is a lengthy recap, but that's fine. A
Mm.
lot has been happening in the last few sessions. Now that we're all caught up, and if you are not understanding a few things for new watching this, if you subscribe, you have the entire the whole section of videos of this campaign to watch. And every so often I do a longer recap of everything that's happened in the story so far. So feel free to listen to one of those. And I will award Nix. Sorry. You're not on the roll corner.
What's that?
No, you.
Oh, disconnected me. Wow.
Right. So I will award Nix a reroll point for her recaps, just like usual. And now we're gonna look at what karma cards are going to be in effect.
Hopefully none.
4 of them.
Gosh damn it.
To remind everyone, you have celebrity status. The next town the party enters has heard of their heroic deeds. Anytime in the same town, they have a +5 to all charisma checks, which is a permanent thing for Caroline. And the negative is that the party is way too popular and everyone notices them. They have disadvantage on stealth while in town.
Yay.
Now,
Stealth, eh?
let's look at the next one. The next one was submitted by our amazing the Jen. It says, big meanies. Children and animals are frightened by you for 1d4 hours. You have -2 to charisma checks when engaging them. So technically with children and with animals, you have only 3.
Can I just say I'm really glad that didn't come out last.
With a production.
Yeah.
Also, the positive is that the party gains +2 insight during the same period. So let's see how many hours this is in play. 3 hours. Right. I'm going to keep that so that we know it's in play. The next karma card we have is called the Footloose. Each party member just rolls a 1d20. During the next combat, the bottom half players lose their movement on their first turn, and the top half each gain that movement combined. So I will roll a d20 for Nexus. Everybody else roll a d20.
Got it that way.
Woo!
I rolled an 18.
Oh boy. 9. What?
All right, so
Oh, that's funny.
right click.
Oh, I have advantage on initiative. Just roll
Roll
one.
initiative. If you can.
Sorry. Listen.
Please,
Okay.
take Ramon, take the card.
11.
You and Nexus won't have any movement next combat. Next
No
first
movement?
round of combat. In the first round,
Do
yeah.
we get double then?
You guys do.
I'm-
Next, Karma Bird.
I made that one up.
is also submitted by the Gen. This is the Gen episode, clearly. Your shoes are untied. Each party member must roll a DC 15 dex save or trip over their untied shoes, falling prone. You each, the positive, will see after everybody sees if they fall prone or not.
Is that in combat or just now?
Just now, everybody roll a dexterity saving throw, please.
Okay.
So he's just gonna randomly fall in Nexus's house. I mean, in
We
Wilson's
also
house.
just like step out and just trip over like an invisible rope.
I made it.
Woo, I
Right.
made it.
I put 15 on the dot.
15, 16.
19 for a 21.
Okay, so only one of you falls in his Nexus.
Yay! I mean, oh, poor guy.
The positive is that he spots a gem worth 100 gold on the ground, which belongs to Lorcan's family, but he pockets it nonetheless.
Wow.
So add a gem worth 100 gold. I will later tell you what it is. Please, next, because you're the one with the money.
That's just
that's-
Nexus for the gem.
Yeah, because it's only the people that fell.
Can I
Everybody
pick
else
his
did.
pocket?
Nix is the one in charge of the money. He gives it to her.
Yay.
Right. So we've already done 1, 2, right? 3. This is the last one. This one was submitted by Greg, Save versus Games. New orthotics. A random party member just got new boots. The perfect fit with insoles that are supposed to help your feet get stronger. Problem is they're not broken in. For the next 2 turns of combat, your speed is reduced by 10 feet. And on the 3rd round of combat, the character regains normal movement, 10 feet of walking speed, plus 10 feet of walking speed for 1 minute. I would like everyone to roll me a d100.
Oh, do it that way.
Oh, I didn't get it.
Bang in the middle.
Well,
Oh.
Nix, you pick the card.
Okay.
Nix doesn't have movement. Has minus 10 movement in the first round of combat.
That's his farmer.
All right. Now that we've established all that, let's get going. Shall we? So, let's put us back to Caroline. The beautiful, large metropolis of Caroline. And you all heard a knock on the door, and Baroness, Larkin's mother, said, "Ah, that must be your darling." She said to Akra. Akra went, "Ready for the second round?" She turned to Nexus, who looked just resigned to his fate. And she's turned towards the door to open. And as she opens the door, what you see is this.
The kobold. I'm kidding.
Okay.
That's not what she expects. She looks. Because he's like, and she just stares.
And he goes, "Akra, my dear, how are you this evening? Oh, I see our son has returned."
Just looks at the dragon one. Looks at Nexus looks.
Akka goes, get your ass in here. He needs a lullaby. I've done my part, you've got to do yours. He goes,
How do you say his name?
Enkar.
Enkar.
He goes, I have had a busy day at work, but I shall speak to him. He walks in. Oh, we have visitors.
Hello, Enkar.
Hello.
Ah, hi, Lorcan. Baronet, my darling, how are you? Where is your lovely husband? He goes, oh, he's inside. Rudvik! Come say hi to Enkar! And then Rudvik comes and goes, morning. He's like, it's late evening. It's the same thing. He walks back out. He goes,
Nexus like she thinks the fathers are being switched.
he goes back out and he looks. So, Nexus. Oh my. Darling, are you sure this is our son? He's half. Did he get a transplant?
He was in an accident.
You see Nexus. I'm fine.
They're funky prosthetics. No.
He goes, don't tell anyone in the city you're my son. He turns around. Who's this?
Nix. Okay, so okay. She
I like
goes-
this guy.
Nix looks at him, takes a deep breath and goes, "Hi, I'm Nix. And you shouldn't say that. Your son is really brave and he saved our lives.
We are
So you
attending.
should be proud that he's your son."
I cast
With
silence
let-
around Nix.
Shut up. Shut up.
He looks you up and down. You saved and
Oh.
you see Nexus looks at his dad. He can't. You see that he wants to say something or move, but
And
he
Nick-
looks at his mom. He looks at his dad.
Nix turns to Nexus. She goes, Nexus, are you going to let him talk to us like that? And she looks at him.
Why, are you going to sign up to the chaos?
Whoosh.
She looks at him.
Roll me persuasion. Intimidation or persuasion? What are you going for?
Ah, same. Why would he? Would he be? It's a battle of
Intimidation.
intimidation. Sure.
You're really going up against that chaotic
Do we have-
couple.
So we didn't have. Well, we don't have advantage.
Have a very good charisma check while in the city.
Hey.
No,
Got it.
sorry, +5.
Oh, +5.
That's still technically good.
And she empowers herself and enhance ability.
No,
Oh.
not enough time for that.
Oh. Nah. If it was it's not advantage, it's just a 10.
A 10. He looks at you, Nix, and he goes. He looks at his dad and he goes, Father, have you heard the rumors of what happened to Grace and the Gargantuan? I don't bother myself with what common people say. You see, his wife looks at him.
Hmm.
You heard me talk about it. Well, you're an exception. You're famous.
Technically, we're famous.
He looks at Larkin. Say that again.
I said, technically, we're famous now.
He looks you up and down. For what?
Have you not heard the rumors?
No. I said I don't bother myself with what common people spread around.
Then how would you know someone's famous?
Because they're only really famous in this town, Lorcan, if the council has determined so.
Quite right.
Council. Has the council determined so, everyone? I don't know.
You don't know. Yeah. Because Nexus, we must speak. You need to take care of whatever this transplant is and get your legs back before we can be seen together. But do you mind if I borrow a room, Baronet? She looks at him.
You don't have one in your normal house.
I can't be seen walking out with him.
Well, he's staying here.
I'm sorry.
What, I don't think he wants to stay at his mother's.
Yes, that's what I mean to speak to my son.
Oh.
He's your son, by the way. And he goes and your mother looks at you, Larkin, and says, since he's got promoted, he's been like this. And she shows them a room, and you see Nexus follows very.
Do we actually know his station?
Your mother does. You knew that he worked for one of the main. He works under one of the council representatives. One of the 5 council representatives is like his second in command. And apparently he just got promoted.
So he's full to his beans, gotcha.
Mm-hmm. And you remember that Lorcan, that the story between him and Akra is pretty bad because once he got into work at the council like he wanted, he kicked her to the curb and she raised Nexus pretty much by herself. Oh. And then when she became famous in the arena, they got back together. And nobody really approves of that.
Why not be together?
Because Akra went back for it.
Damn.
And you and your mother have discussed this a few times because Nexus has suffered quite a bit with this dynamic in his upbringing.
With him? No, it's fine. The mother's fine.
The mother's fine.
No, Nexus is fine. He can take a beating. but it's the mental manipulation that he can't deal with.
Right. So whilst Nexus is out of the room, you see Akra is like, just his mom is like, lost eyes, still looking at where he disappeared into.
Akra.
Huh? Yes?
You're staring.
And? He's my husband, I can't.
Yes. He's not there, though.
Point taken. So, are you going to stay for my show, or are you going out straight away?
Good question. When is your show again?
In
March.
2 days.
2 days. What was the next? What were we doing whilst we were here?
This whole time she's been like with a frown on her face. She goes, what?
What we were doing whilst we were here? I've completely forgotten.
We came back for Nexus and for Ipodot. And then we gotta keep going.
So, above table, apparently our players have forgotten why they came here.
I
You
never
needed a
remember.
map, a way to get to the wasteland.
Oh, I thought we already had the map.
No, you too. You were given it last session by Akra.
There you go. Okay. So we have the map. Well,
We already have it though, so we're not getting it.
No, why you came?
Oh, we came to get the map.
how long are we planning to stay before we go to the wasteland? Question to Nix.
I think she's thinking back for her notes. She was only able to slow down the process for about 2 weeks, I think. Looks at where Nexus went. She looks towards Cinder.
Cinder has 4 weeks left.
It
And
seems to be
Nexus
better.
has 3, but you have another scroll of greater restoration if I remember.
To make it full.
You make it full.
So we have about a month to get that technically.
Yeah, you need to look at how long it will take.
But
you
we need to
get
see
there.
the map to see how long it's gonna take.
I shall go back to the map and we shall see. So here's the big problem.
Akra, is there any shortcuts on the way? Do you know already? You've been there, haven't you?
Of course, you don't get to be the main person at the arena in Carolon these days by not doing the fighting pilgrimage. See, the problem is, and she points at the map. You see this passage? She points at it.
Yes.
It doesn't exist anymore.
What? How? A passage through mountains like this?
That's the question, isn't it? Everybody says it is now a black hole into some random place.
A black hole?
I don't know. That's what they call it. It's like a hole on the ground.
That's a deep
Miles
subject.
deep and miles across.
Wait. Yeah, does that not remind you of what was in that tavern the other time?
I know.
Tavern with holes? Where have you been?
I know
Oh,
nothing about a tavern.
It was. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, that. Yeah, she kind of thinks back, but.
So this hole is said to be miles long and miles across and miles deep. So you can't go through that way, which is the quick way. So you either fly over the mountains, like me, which takes a long time, let me tell you, or you have to either find a way through or around. If you go around the bottom, that'll take you about maybe 2 months. Maybe not. Let me think. So that's always sorry. Not 2 months. 2 weeks. Mariana's
I'll
being
be-
stupid.
Yeah.
2 weeks. Or if you find a way through the mountains, I mean, it could be quicker, maybe, possibly, depending on how you guys get through. Now, if you have a way to cross a miles long hole, that is still the quickest. But it used to take us about 2 weeks there and back. But now if you go around, if you go through, maybe it's still the same. But if you go around, it will take you 3 to 4.
Is there not a way through the mountains?
Blue, so I don't know. But there's no city in the mountains or near them. There's only villages spread around the bottom. So we don't actually know. This map's old. I haven't been there in a while.
Okay, thank you for your opinion.
Yeah, so recap just thing because I did make a mistake. So if you go around the bottom, 3 to 4 weeks. If you go across the hole at the top, about a week. If you go through the mountain, she estimates about 2 weeks.
But she doesn't know.
She doesn't know.
And if we go past the black hole, we will be dead, so we won't get there anyway.
You don't know what it is, but she mentions that there's that hole that is miles long, miles across, and miles deep into a different place.
Yes. Yes, I can imagine.
So like the one in Siena.
Yay.
So was it just from Nix's notes? So around the bottom was 3 to 4 weeks.
Across
Through
the
the
mountain, she expects it to be about 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
And
Well,
the main path where people used to go that is now blocked by this hole, it would have been a week.
I have to say, I don't really feel like going down any more holes in this life. Not after what happened last time and having to pull us out of it.
I don't know. It could be fun. What's the riskiest one? The hole?
The hole, yeah, we can
That
throw you
gets
down
my
there.
vote. I got 4 weeks to live, so
Yeah, you'll still have 2 once we get over the mountains.
going the long way around is out because I'll be dead.
No, you would be getting there around this. Worst case scenario, you'll be getting there around the time that.
How about we go see what it is and then continue to cross the mountains further along?
What if we go
can't
down the hole, walk across, and up the hole?
What happens if we die?
Yeah.
We'll have Nixus go first.
That's helpful.
There's a week to
Exactly.
go to the mountains.
I mean, what else is he good for?
The mountain path would be 2 weeks.
Well, we can, as I said, we're on the way there. We can probably stop and see what it is anyway.
Nix is like, I don't want to go to the
No.
hole, but
Is
they want to go to
Nixus
the hole.
staring at me?
Wait, Go past. I don't want to go down the hole. Christ, I've been down enough of those horrible holes.
I felt like Nixus was staring at me.
Yeah.
Nexus or Nix?
So you say
Nexus.
Nexus.
I said
Like a
Nixus.
fusion.
Nexus.
You know, that's
Nexus-
kind of the combination of Nix and Nexus. You know, because they're a
Nexus.
thing.
Yeah, but Nexus is not in this room. He's talking
Okay.
to his father.
Oh, good.
That's nice.
Trying to talk to his father.
No, his father's talking to him.
Oh.
But
I
he's
have
more
an
the-
idea. Why don't we leave now? And then we have them deliver a message that we're going down the hole, but we go the safer way instead, and then Nixus can beat us there and get his cure.
But won't we be killed by the mother for not staying for that fight?
Well, yeah. No,
No, you'd be
he's
fine.
tough.
Like you.
He's tough. He can take it.
Makes me expect to how beat up he was.
Okay. Does
you
anybody have fly?
As you guys are discussing this,
What's fly?
it's a spell. As,
Oh,
Okay.
as everybody,
Really?
as everybody is discussing this, what is everybody's passive perception?
22.
If it's a warning thing, I have a Warhammer of warning.
You're
13.
not going to get it. You don't have us.
It's jumped.
My passive perception is 11.
Cinder?
13.
Alright. So only Nick hears this, but whilst you guys are discussing, you hear Akra has got on board of your argument, and he's talking to Baroneth. And at first you only catch a few words, and then she goes, I tell you, that brothel's trouble. If it's true, the rumors, there's demons already spreading through.
You
Keyword,
heard that?
keyword demons. I think Nick's did right.
Yeah, you all have been told this before, but she's still talking about it with Baroneth.
Looks perks up about. Are they just off to the side having their own private
Yeah.
conversation? Okay.
Yeah, Baroneth is serving Akra during while they're talking. And Baroneth goes, I know, I mean, I am perfectly safe since Woodbeak would never go to a brothel like that, but I don't know about your husband. Maybe they're trying to infiltrate the council. Just be careful, Akra.
Next that.
What good places to start an investigation?
As you guys continue your conversation.
Nix is just contemplating. She's waiting for Nexus to come back.
So if you're waiting for Nexus to come back after about 5 minutes, you see his father comes through. Akra, dear. I'm done talking to our son. Your son, should I say. And, shall we go somewhere nice today? I believe you have your match tomorrow and I won't be able to see you. Isn't that what we agreed? 3 nights a week? Because, yeah, today, right? Okay, let's go. Thank you. I'll meet you at the restaurant. She looks at him. But, fine. Baroneth, Ludwig, pleasure to see you. Lorcan, as always. And he looks at Cinder up and down. You're still in disguise self as a dragonborn lady, pregnant, correct? You're muted.
Yes.
He looks her up and down. Looks at Nick.
Good news. You're going to be a grandmother.
My grandfather.
Grandmother,
looks-
grandfather. I can never tell with you dragon.
Looks at you.
Wait, I am
Oh,
a dragon.
so he's at least been with an actual dragonborn instead of an ant. That's better.
She just ignores him. It's not worth her time.
An ant?
She meant Nix.
Yeah.
Those are some big ants.
She smiles at him.
What's up and down?
I'll be
Do not-
delivering in a month.
Good. Then you have a month to get out of the city.
Ah.
And he's pleasure, everyone. He walks out.
But I want to have a
Uh,
baby shower.
Can Nix do something?
Yeah.
Can Nix try and
Nexus is not coming out from the room that they're taking to.
can Nix kind of like
He's
step
not.
out? Like, so he's gone, right? Out the door.
Yeah.
Can she walk out?
Yeah.
And can she look to? Can she see if there's anyone on the street?
Ah,
Perception check.
check.
That's cool. Now the good rolls are coming. Alright. So that would be 26.
Right, 26. So what you see is this as he comes out, there's like 5 Dragonborn guards waiting for him. There's people since Akra, you've noticed that since Akra went into Baronet's house, people are about out and about doing their life as normal. As opposed to when you guys were when Akra was in her house where everybody had their shutters closed. And they're out and about and doing stuff. So yeah, there's activity.
Okay. She makes
It is-
that up. So it's 5 guards.
There's 5 guards.
Yes, she whispers on there. Next time. And she goes back to
You should
sleep.
do it anyway.
Nexus is staying in the room that Baroness showed him and his father for now. Anything else you guys are doing?
Nice.
He's not come back out, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, we're gonna go in and see him.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
No. If you see he's alive, Christ.
Yeah, if it's been a while, yeah, next will go on now.
He's a low elf, Christ. Wait, Nexus, you alright in here?
Yeah. As you walk in, Nexus, you see him with his back to you guys, and you see him like shaking slightly.
Furious, lad?
He doesn't respond.
Nix walks over, she pulls out her alchemy jug. Like puts it on the. Is it like a counter or something? Like a surface?
Yeah,
She like puts it there.
he doesn't. He's still like kind of shaking.
Is he frozen? Or is he actually shaking?
He's like you said you have like a massive passive perception, right?
22.
You hear sniffling.
She goes over. She goes next because she goes next time.
Yeah.
She goes, yeah, it's okay. She just pats her, pats us.
You okay, lad? How's your pompous prick of my father?
A pompous prick.
Yep. Doesn't change, does he? Getting worse actually in his old age, Christ. Have you noticed his white is starting to go more like grey?
He doesn't respond.
Look, Nix looks for like anything to pour a drink for him.
You'd have to go back to the kitchen where you guys
It's
will.
fine. She will. I think she can just use a water skin. Yeah, okay, so she'll go get a glass. She'll go back to the kitchen and come back. And then she'll find him a cup, pour the beer in it, come in. She pats him. Have a drink.
He takes it.
Take it while
drinks
you
it.
can. He doesn't give out beer that often, do you?
He takes it. He drinks, still silent. There's something clearly weighing on his mind, not just what made him be this upset. There's something weighing on his mind.
Is that like just obvious?
It's very obvious.
Yeah, it's not for me.
Ah, look at that.
Like, I mean, it's actually pretty obvious to you because he's your best friend. You know something right. It's not
He'll be
just,
fine.
it's not just the usual dickhead sorry,
You know what? I'll roll.
father. It's not just the usual.
This is backing up.
It's not just the usual stupid father dynamic that happens. Something else happened.
Insight, is it?
Yes, you have advantage on nexus.
Yeah, I got a double 9. And mine says a
Next.
plus, so I got a 10.
Next will guide ourselves, and I think we have a +2 to inside there, right?
Yeah, you do. And you, yeah. For the next 3 hours.
Cool.
Oh, 12.
And well, plus before. Come on. Nice. It's a 15.
Something
Okay, fine. 22.
Something is.
Very wrong.
You see Nexus. You never
Cindy
seen
knows
Nexus.
it from the other room, it's fine.
Yes. You have never seen Nexus anywhere close to this state of
Sorry, it was 19. I forgot to add my modifier. But
Okay. So yeah, you both never seen Nexus anywhere close to this state of mind.
Can I have a beer?
chicken sure. But she's like never takes her eyes off Nexus. Is Nexus? What's wrong?
He turns to Larkin.
Yeah.
She's like, "Oh, down here." Yeah,
You
no, I
notice-
know.
He turns to Larkin. Where's the quietest place in your house?
Probably the toilet.
I'm sorry to say we all need to go there.
The toilet? Really? It's not big enough.
I don't like him that much.
See, what do you think?
How about his room? Is that not big enough?
My room?
Is it not quiet in there?
Yeah, good luck. Probably the loft.
Then loft it is.
Oh.
He takes you all. I assume Larkin guides the way. As you guys all come in, he closes the door. And he starts by saying, "We have to be quiet again.
Okay.
My father is up to no good again. He's told me I have 24 hours to leave the city."
Wait, souls basically is the same.
Yes, but apparently the one that my mother is going to fight and that put her in hospital is working for him.
Excuse me?
He wants her out so he can stop. There's somebody else that is going to give him the status he wants. He wants her out. Someone from some random brothel. And he wants
Ding
us
ding ding
out.
ding 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 ding. It's like sorry, that's Lex's internal.
Can I
So
ask a
your father-
question above table?
Speaking of your mother,
Yeah, and he told me not to dare tell her that I've been kicked out, and
why would he
This is
tell
all.
you that?
I figured one of the things out. The rest,
Or Logan's just impressed that you figured something
Yeah.
out.
Cinder has a crossbow.
yes, I do.
You're talking about the scary mother, right?
A scary
Yeah.
mother, yeah.
Okay. Just making sure.
Yes.
Can I leave and go
I-
tell her?
1 second. He says,
Sure, believe you.
he threatened me that if I tell her, he'll make sure she doesn't survive the next time.
Nix is regretting not doing what she was going to do.
You know how he is, Lucky.
Your father's threatening your mother?
Yeah.
Is he
He
capable?
says he made her who she is and he can destroy her too.
You didn't make her. She made her.
We know that. He thinks otherwise.
Well, he's a cocky, pompous douche.
Is he actually
Peter?
capable of defeating your mother?
Not on a one-on-one, but if he's got people like the one that put my mother in hospital, yes.
Well, then we have to stay. Not
Okay.
leaving. Even if we have to disguise you.
But then she has no chance then.
What
He
do you
said
mean?
if I stay or say anything
What?
to her.
Whoa. Who said that
We're
you
not-
have to stay?
What?
And look, we have a pregnant woman next to us.
Sorry, the DM bro. He looks, but he can do that to me.
I don't know. Can you do it to her? Him?
Next straight for her.
Miss? Doesn't
I don't think it works like that.
it?
No. I think it's very much like my old self. Actually, it's this guy's self, right? She looks at Cinder.
Yes, it's just disguised self. But if you have polymorph, maybe?
But
Not yet.
all we have to do is colour in his scales and make them darker.
Oh yes, and how do you hide my inside out knees?
Well, no offense to your father's not going to be looking for people with inside out knees.
It does make him stand out, though. I mean, he's not exactly pretty like me.
Put you in a skirt, it's fine.
This, well, we have to help. We have to help Nexus. Plus, the danger's bigger than we all think. Your father may be associated with demons as well.
Well,
Whoa there.
I have to confess, I don't care much for Nexus, but I do like his mother.
No one messes with Nexus. She says, "Oh, but she looks at them."
I'm more concerned about my mother. I don't mind leaving outside the city. As long as she doesn't find me, she won't wallop me, so it's fine.
But then, will your father's scheme go ahead? And doesn't he want her to lose anyway?
Hmm.
He wants her to lose, but I don't think he wants her dead. That would cause uproar.
Can he control that?
I don't know.
What if he doesn't know that we're the ones that warn her?
We're the ones that what?
Warned
That
her.
warn her.
Oh, I think
I don't know. Maybe. Look, I'm not smart, okay?
I know. It's okay.
she will help Nexus.
But if we stay, isn't she in risk? That's what he said.
Well, she won't be a risk if we manage to neutralize the threat that your father poses.
True.
That's
How about we
true.
take out the people that are going to fight your mother?
Hmm. And his connections that he has to that brothel.
There's a brothel?
Hmm.
There's a brothel?
Mm-hmm. She goes, don't you? She looks at it's your city, don't you know?
Well, which brothel?
That's the question.
She goes, there you go. I'll have to ask.
don't know
What
which
if
I'll ask your mother.
what if your father were to just disappear?
That's difficult to do. He's one of the council members now.
Yeah, well, we've seen a council member that's just passed out on a road.
He's always with guards.
What's his CR?
What?
That's how I'm driving.
I got that.
What's this? Yeah. There's ways.
I mean,
Not
would you
every
say
fight
he's
one-
as powerful as one of us? Twice as powerful? Would you say he's all talk, no bite?
There's always ways. Cinder, if you put your mind to it.
I do have some poison.
I do what?
I have some
Poison.
poison.
Ah,
He
I
is
have some
poisoned.
drow poison. It could knock him
So do
out,
I.
and then we can move him and lock him up somewhere that he can't get out.
Aye.
what about his guards?
I doubt his guards are as powerful as he is.
Yeah, but how do you get past them? If they find you trying to fight the guards of a council member, you're in jail before you know it.
I could look them in the eyes. so to speak?
Okay, it's like she is. I'm sure there's other ways to do it without starting a fight with the council.
First, shall we see where this brothel is?
Yes. Would you like me to ask so you don't get in trouble? She points at Nexus and at Lorcan.
How are you going to ask what brothel he has contacts in if he didn't tell me? He's left.
No, it's because I heard a rumor from, I think it was your mother, that said they had trouble at a brothel. Did you say it might be the one and the same?
My mother knows about rumors of a brothel.
Hmm. Or Nexus's mom told her. Or I think they all knew. I just
I'm
never heard it.
gonna go wait outside then. I'll see you later.
You think it's connected?
Because I don't know it's connected, but it's too big of a coincidence to ignore.
Fine. You ask her. I'll go with Lorcan.
In her mind, she goes, "Coward." Yeah, so she'll do it. She'll go down.
I will just remind the party that the longer you stay in this town, the less of a chance you have if you have to go around.
No, we are not going around. We will force our way through, even if I have to smash the mountain.
Debates.
I
He's a
have an
giant. It's
idea.
fine. Just smash him out.
I have an
Yes?
idea. What if we get a
Mhm.
little gift box and place my extra eye into the box looking upward and leave it from an anonymous person as a gift to your father, and that could handle the situation and he won't know who it came from.
I don't see the idea working.
Well, the only thing we have to lose by trying it is me losing an eye, and I can get another one.
Yeah. Well, you've got to look positively on it. I mean, but it's just not viable, is it? I mean, how likely is it that he's going to open the mail of an eye?
All he's got to do is glance in the box, and boom, contact. And then he gets stoned.
Everyone opens mail before it gets to them.
Oh.
It's stone and made instead.
We could put to be opened by him only on it. No? Is this going nowhere? Because I'm out of ideas.
Only.
I know, I'm teasing. I like when you guys discuss that. It gives me ideas.
Oh, great. Can I hand my eye to the DM, please?
Just swing it around and get everyone in a 360-degree circle.
Alright.
That's how I could defeat the guards. Spin it over my head.
Cinder has gone mad with power. Because, well, I'm gonna go find out.
So, Lorcan, where did you go?
Outside.
Outside of the room or outside of the house?
I'll go outside the house now, too.
So Nexus and Larkin, Nexus and Cinder are outside.
Mom.
Alright, be careful, dear.
Nice meeting you.
Pleasure.
Ah,
Archer's just looking.
I could just glare.
Please don't make any assumptions about us all being in the same room together a minute ago. I am a one dragonborn kind of gal.
She looks. Berneth, what did you put in my drink?
More like what is he drinking? But yeah, it's fine.
Nexus is. We'll be outside, Mom. You better.
I like she was so peaceful woman and you. Nexus speaks. You better.
Hi, Mrs. Akra.
Fine, Lorcan, dude.
Oh boy.
I have another idea, Lorcan. I could disguise myself as his mother, and then I could go up and threaten him, his father, and say, "You come after me, you come after whoever, and I will destroy you." And then I say, "Here, look at this."
Did you just forget that she's kind of
Look in my eye. You can believe every word I say.
Why is every plan that you think of
Involving
your eye?
Because it's removable.
This is like most powerful weapon. My eye.
I haven't used it in a while, except I almost petrified myself. So
That's how strong it is.
Look in her mirror, why don't you?
Almost petrified himself.
Okay, well, you all go out. Nix, what are you doing?
Going up to the mothers. She goes, "Hi." She goes, "Sorry to interrupt. We heard disturbing rumors that like there was some sort of bad things happening at a brothel. I only ask because I heard rumors of demons and we've encountered some. So we have some experience with it." Short. It makes it sound like the most innocent question.
Ah, well, it's the velvet touch.
Velvet touch. She makes a note of that. Thank you. It was lovely to meet you both. Yeah.
Wouldn't it be the man that be looking at the...
Confusion.
I think you put something... this drink is on right now. Just telling you.
But before Nyx leaves, she starts with her. She goes, "You know, your son loves you, you know. You should be nicer to him." She walks up. She walks up.
People are telling me things.
Like what?
I'm hearing things. Bernal, give me a better drink.
Meredith just puts down a whiskey bottle.
I guess it should be nicer. But yeah, Nyx comes out.
Alright, so... Nix, all you got was a name.
So that's enough for her. That's enough to start with. She goes.
I'll tell the Nexus first and find out.
She looks at Nexus and then so the Velvet Touch. That was the name, right?
Nick looks at Larkin.
Why are you looking at me?
Weren't you the one that knew somebody in there?
She looks to her.
Wait, who are you thinking of?
He goes... Yardo, something like that.
Who?
The pretty red dragonborn girl you were going out with at one point. Didn't she work at the brothel or something?
Oh, you mean the lady who was at the inn?
No, he means here in Carol. Backstory. It's not in your backstory. I'm giving it to you if you want to take it.
Like, no.
If you want to have dated someone who works at the brothel, that's great. If not, you can say no. That's not who it is.
Sure, why not? I'll always play anything. Yeah, sure. Yeah, actually, was it the Velvet Touch that she was at?
That's what you said.
Was it? I was young.
Well, I know. Fool.
How is it foolish?
Because you know you don't date someone that works there. Because they sleep with everybody.
Not her.
Sure.
Nexus was looking at them.
So yes, let's just say that you know exactly where it is. It is next to the Shamblers Inn.
Where on earth is that?
Shamblers Inn's here.
Yeah, I was scrolling down on that.
Cinder wants to do something then.
Cinder, you can roll me.
Stealth.
Your stealth check.
What?
You said you want to sneak off? Roll me a stealth check.
I'm gonna use hidden step.
Oh.
You're invisible.
Ooh.
Whose
alright.
mum are you talking to?
Both of them, because they're
Apparently.
they're both.
Still disguised or not?
You're hidden. You do hidden step, and then what?
I'm gonna sneak off and head toward Nexus'
You
mother.
still need to do a stealth check. You just have advantage because invisibility gives you advantage.
Okay. Oh, I can do
Because
that.
invisible, but they may hear you.
Have they got an illusion on him still?
Yeah.
Oh
if
man,
you-
I'm horrible.
Advantage.
Ooh. Rough.
10?
Yeah, they all hear Cinder sneaking off, but you don't know where to because he's invisible. So
She goes, Cinder, we'll meet you there then. It's Lori Rose.
Okay.
Cinder, you go back in to talk to his mom.
To
They're
Nexus'
talking.
mother.
Yeah, Baroneth and Accra are talking.
I may I speak to you in private, please?
To me?
Aren't you still invisible?
No, it's only
It
for
wears
Mr.
off
Brown.
quite quick.
Alright.
Yes, please. It's of major importance.
This is gonna go wrong.
Hmm.
Baroneth, do you mind? Darling. She goes, no, no, no. I'll go see how Ludwig is doing. You see Baroneth goes and gives kind of a kiss on the top of Akra's head and walks off. She goes, what do you want?
Okay, so you know this isn't how I really look. And I have the ability to disguise myself. And I have an idea. You see, we just learned that your husband, right? Her husband?
Oh no.
Huh?
What about my husband?
He is planning to move against you.
You're funny.
Well, he threatened Nexus, and
Of course.
he told him
He's funny.
that if he warns you, well, you would pay the consequence.
Ankar would never.
Oh, but he is, but I do have an idea if you're willing to hear it.
Roll me persuasion. It would. Here's the thing. She is infatuated with him, so that would have given you disadvantage. But you are proposing an idea, and you got her curious, so that would have given you advantage. Which means it's gonna be a straight roll at the end of the day.
Okay.
Persuasion. Go for it.
Persuasion. Oh, good God. I'm switching dice. 10.
Rest in peace.
He goes, your idea better be to stop thinking about that sort of stuff because there's no way in the whole of Carolyn that he would do that.
Well, you see, if I'm wrong, you have nothing to lose. If I'm right, then you gain an advantage.
I have a fight to prepare for.
Okay, well, then I guess I should be going. But if you learn that I'm wrong later, well, you won't be around to thank me, so it's been a pleasure.
Roll me another. Yeah, roll me another persuasion check.
Straight?
Yep. Because you're not like insisting too much, and you seem genuinely concerned.
14.
As she looks at you, does she see genuine concern? What does she see? Inside check. You got
Genuine
an out.
concern.
genuine concern. He looks at you.
And frustration that my dice suck.
I'll think about it.
Well, think about this as well. If you decide that you would like an advantage, I was thinking maybe I take your form and fake my death, and you just kind of lay low until the right moment and surprise him. He'll think you're dead, and you can work from the shadows and trick him.
That's not honorable.
Okay.
We are hero fighters. We fight head on.
There is no honor in war, but that's fine.
This is not a war. I appreciate the concern. And my big problem is who I'm fighting in 2 days that cheats. I'm not so concerned about him.
Well, be careful of what you eat in the meantime. He might poison you. I don't know how he's going to move against you.
But you know that he is.
Yes, of course. Nexus was shaking after talking to his father.
Usually he is. He's just got that too much of a soft heart, that boy. Don't know whose son he is.
He's a little dense, maybe, but he is brave. I'll reluctantly grant him that. But my concern is more for you. Okay.
You see that she's being honest, that she is thinking about it.
Okay, well, you take care. I'm going to go meet the others. True pleasure meeting you. Anytime you want to wrestle, let Nexus know, and he'll wrestle you.
He'll be a punching bag of me.
Yes, I know. I so enjoy that. So, goodbye.
As you leave, you see that you leave her thinking. And you make your way out, and the rest of the party is nowhere to be seen.
I go to where, was it the Red Velvet or something like that? Isn't that where you're going?
The Velvet Touch, but you don't know where it is.
The red velvet, that's perfect.
Okay. I will go up to somebody and ask for directions, I suppose.
Are you still disguised as a woman?
Yes, and I'll be holding my aching back and kind of walking slightly widespread legs, going, "Hi, do you know where this Velvet Touch is? My man is there, and I've got to retrieve him."
Oh, dear. Go down to the main road and go south. All the way till you see an inn. The Chambers Inn is right next door. Good luck.
Thank you. I hope my water doesn't break. And I'll continue on.
Right, so you are going to be a little late to the party. I'm going to use Larkin's token to denominate where you are, more or less. Okay. Right, so the party. You take about half an hour to get 1 second. You take about half an hour till you get to the tavern, but you have like a 10-minute head start. Sit there. I'm just checking something with the players because I keep getting messages and you're not answering me. So please answer me. Okay. Alright, so since there is some technical issues on some of the players' side, we're going to go on a quick 5 to 10 minute break, and then we'll come back at the Velvet Touch brothel.
Oh, it would be when people actually come into the stream.
Of course it is.
Thank you,
Ladies out
everybody.
loud.
Don't go away.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
See you in a minute.
See you in a minute.
There you guys. So you can't log into games. Hello.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome back. Just so everybody knows, things might go a bit slower because there is some technical issues with Roll20 happening at the moment. For now, we're gonna keep going. If there's something else that goes down, either one more player or me, the DM, we're gonna have to cut the session short. So just a heads up to everybody that's watching, we apologize, but there's nothing we can do. It's Roll20 that is going down. So, we were going to the Velvet Touch. You go through, we are in the old slums. You can see that as you walk through this area, you can see like the foundations of the houses and stuff. It's clearly like a slum area, but then there is quite a few new builds, and there's quite a few houses that have clearly been like patched up. So Lorcan, if you want, or Nexus will explain to you that this used to be the slums, but there is a new slum area that is even worse than this one as the city continued to expand. So this is still known as the slums, and the other one is known as the shantytown. But technically, the worst one is the other one. So you continue to pass, and there's this big inn, this big tavern, just like Lorcan mentioned, the Shambles Inn, which is very rowdy. You can see there's from the sounds of it, there's like fighting inside. There's like people doing arm wrestling competitions in the tables outside, and people placing bets, and it's rowdy. It's very active.
Rowdy City. Howdy rowdy.
So, as you continue, the building next to it it's a very nice, clearly one of the new builds, and it has this. The windows are all boarded up.
Mm.
If you didn't know that this was the place you were going to, you'd think that this is a abandoned house or something like that. There's a little sign damaged, like as if it was old and abandoned, called the Velvet Touch. And the door seems almost barred or boarded up. I want everybody to roll me perception.
Weird. Advantage. That's much better.
I got a 3.
30-20.
Okay, so Lorcan and Cinder? Oh, Cinder's not there yet. Never mind.
Cinder's legging it.
Cinder's coming. So not 24-25. Nexus has been here before, so he's like, he knows this is not the main entrance. Lorcan's like, oh, it's closed. Oh, it's shut down. Oh well. And Nix is like, there's noise inside. There's lights coming through.
There's always noise inside.
Goes red.
Nexus goes this way. And he turns around and he leads you down this dark alley. And he knocks on the door. And there's a person that opens like a little latch on the door, and he goes, Lorcan,
Stormhammer. She looks around for Stormhammer.
He's like, he looks at Stronghammer, sorry.
What?
The person looks at him, unimpressed. I'm here to see Cardo.
Who?
Nexus is impersonating her.
Yeah. She's like,
He closes the latch. A few minutes pass. He opens the latch. you'll be able to come in. Not sure about your friends. Closes it, opens it, and Nexus takes a step back. And it's like, he's Lorcan. And points at you, Lorcan.
What? Why?
You're the one who knows Campbell.
You won't impersonate me.
Because you weren't standing up, you snoozing. You see the guy's like 5, 4, 3.
All right.
You're not here to seek your Paul?
Yes.
Well, come in then.
Is she around?
Come in then.
All of us?
Just you.
Why not all of us?
This is a fine establishment, only invites. Do you have invites? Come in.
Well, technically, are you gonna make the lady stand outside? Who's
There's
now
a-
running down the
You
stairs?
see, he's been looking at this height. He's like, there's a lady.
That was rude.
He looks down. Oh,
she's stupid. She goes, "Hi, I'm here to apply."
Oh,
I don't know if we take non-dragonborns.
She goes, "I can be anything you want." And she like smiles at him.
Give me.
Oh,
Give me. Okay. Something.
I do not want to
Tech
know
glitch.
Okay. Well,
no.
You, Peter.
yeah.
Yeah, I kicked them out. It's on stream.
Oh,
Map window
well.
got popped. So
Do you have a theater of the mind one for this one?
no.
No.
Yeah. All right, guys. This has been a fun time.
Breaking.
It's breaking. Before we leave, just so we know what happens, I'm gonna roll something.
Yeah, it's starting to hit America.
All right. So,
Virginia.
Nix, give me a persuasion
Pennsylvania,
check with disadvantage.
New York, Ohio.
Yeah.
Can I go honestly?
Yeah.
Hey.
I am still fine.
Oof, that's terrible. Could I have cast something to help me? When I said I can be anything you want, she could have transformed with all the stuff.
I'd say that would have made a straight roll.
Okay.
Firefox just crashed for me too. So both
Oh.
browsers are down for him.
Done. Okay.
Roll 20.
Roll.
All right, so
I'll let
if-
you re-roll if you want.
I did. I was gonna say I used a reroll. That's a
Well, unfortunately, that's
14.
that.
And you have a straight roll.
Yeah. So it is +5 from.
Plus 5 to persuasion, yeah. To charisma checks, correct.
And I need a D4. 1 second.
Can you do alter self and guidance?
Yeah, it's not a concentration spell. So that is a 4. So 19, 24.
24. He looks you up and down and goes,
Okay.
maybe you do have talent. He opens the door, so only Larkin and Nix are allowed in at this point. Nexus will stay outside. Cinder is coming, and because of technical issues, unfortunately, we will leave it there for today.
That's
I'm sorry, everyone. We will continue this session. We will not be there next week, so
2 weeks.
I'll see everybody in 2 weeks. And if we do, if there's no more technical issues and things go right, we might have a surprise next week. Given that you guys didn't clear the brothel, may start there. So we'll have a look and see. And I'm sorry, everyone, for cutting this session short. Thank you all for your support. And we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Sorry, everyone. It's not our fault, we promise. It's just Roll20 has gone down. It's been down for everybody. So I can't actually do certain things without it. So sorry, everyone.
Sorry, people.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.